ॐ दक्षिणास्य समारम्भा शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमा अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताः स्मर्या गुरुपरम्परा श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। परिज्ञानाश्रम श्रीगुरुशङ्कर परिज्ञानाश्रम शङ्कर सद्गुरु केशववामन कृष्णपाण्डुरङ्ग आनन्द परिज्ञान गुरु सद्यो जात शङ्कर सद्गुरु गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the last session, we saw that Acharya Yamadharma Raja is trying to wake up all of us who are asleep with the Nidra of Maya. In the Nidra of Avidya, we are all the jivas are asleep. What is the meaning of one being asleep with the Nidra or the sleep of Maya? It just means that I am not as a jiva, I don't understand that I am actually not a jiva. Jivatvam is mithya. Jiva status of mind, which I have taken to be the reality, is mithya. And what is the truth? The truth is that I am that Brahman. I am that Atma. I am that Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Atma Iti. I have no idea of my own Swarupam. This is what is called as the Nidra of Maya. That is why there is, a Upanishad called as Mandukya Upanishad, in which, Gaudapadacharya, who writes Karikas or who writes commentaries on the Upanishad, says, Anadi Mayaya Suktaha Jivaha. That means what? This Jiva has been asleep under the spell of Maya. That means what? Under the spell of the sleep of ignorance, this person has been asleep. And as a human being, having got this rare life of a human being, what is it that I am supposed to do as my primary duty towards myself? As a human being, my primary goal in this life is to get out of this cycle of birth and death. And my primary duty is to go towards the goal of moksha, where I am no longer affected by the samsara, where I no longer keep coming back into the cycles of birth and death. And therefore, he says in the 14th verse, which we took up in the last session also, what does Yamadharma Raja say? He says, Uttishtata Jagrata. Uttishtata, wake up from your slumber. This is supposed to be that, verse or the mantra which Vivekananda also took to literally talk to the youth of this country and to make them understand that, they have to have this kind of a spiritual background. It is said that he used to like this verse very much. And Yamadharma Raja is here not addressing Nachiketa, he is addressing all of us in the guise of Nachiketa. Because Nachiketa has already refused all those things which Yamaraja offered, and he wants only this Atmajnanam. He already is a mumukshu and he has asked for this jnanam. Whereas all of us, 99.9% of the humanity, is asleep under the spell of this avidya or maya. So, here in the 14th verse of the third Valli of the first chapter, Yamadharmaraja is actually trying to tell all of us, the entire humanity, Uttishtata, may you wake up. May you wake up from your slumber of avidya. To wake up means what? May you understand that I am ignorant. Coming face to face, understanding that I'm ignorant about my real nature. And because of this ignorance, I take myself to be this body, mind, sense complex jiva. And because of this, I continue to be a karta, continue to be a bhokta, and keep coming back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. And therefore, uttishtata, may you wake up to the reality. What is the reality? The reality is that I do not know what I am. The reality is that I do not know who I am. Wake up to the reality. Jagrata. Jagrata means do something about it. Wake up and do something about it. Try to get rid of this ignorance which is keeping you bound all the time, which is making you come back again and again and again into these cycles of samsara. Try to get rid of this Jagrata. And what should you do for this? Prapya varan nibodhata. May you approach a sampradaya with guru, a guru who knows how to handle the shastra, a guru who knows how to interpret the shastra, a guru who knows how to open up the words of the Upanishad and then explain the cryptic verses of the Upanishads to you. Prapya Varan. Varan means, that Utkrishta or that, exalted jiva called as, Guru. May you approach a Guru. Prapya Varan Nibodhata. May you get this knowledge. Prapya Varan Nibodhata. Approach a Guru and get this knowledge. We can also say in this line, this particular line is talking about the entire sadhana of a mumukshu. Uttishtata means may you have the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti in the sense that you have the viveka, you have the discrimination to understand that you are an ignorant person and all your bondage is because of ignorance. May you have the capacity to understand this uttishtata. May you be a sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari. Jagrata. May you take up to karma yoga to prepare your mind, to prepare your intellect for jnana prapti, for jnana yogyata prapti. May you make yourself available for karma yoga and may there be chitta shuddhi in you so that you are a jnana yogyata prapti is there. You become a jnana yogya. Therefore, a uttishtata jagrata means may you be a person who has the chadana sadhana chatushtaya adhikaritvam and may you go to Karma Yoga and have your mind and intellect purified, Chitta Shuddhi. And then what? Prapya Vara Nibodhata means it is Jnana Yoga. So here in this one line, Yamadharmaraja has talked about the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti, the karma yoga, and then jnana yogyata prapti and jnana yoga. Prapya varani bodhata. May you go to the right guru, a guru who is a sampradaya with a shrotriya brahmanishta guru, and get this knowledge. This is the process of jnana yoga. And what is the need for this particular approaching of the guru, preparing one's mind for this knowledge? What is the need? Can't I just randomly go and listen to this from anybody or read myself independently, whatever books are available now? Can't I get this knowledge? No, it is not possible. Swatantrena Brahma Abhyasam na kuryat. Brahma Abhyasa should not be done swatantrena, independently. Even if you are a scholar, may you not depend on your intellect alone to study the Shastra. May you go to the right Guru who can open up the Shastra for you. So, why does he say one should go through these stages and to Jnana Yoga? Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya. This whole path, this jnana yoga, understanding of this particular atmajnanam is something which is so subtle. It is something which is so subtle that it is not possible for a person who's not prepared for this knowledge and for a person who does not have the right guidance. It is not possible for such a person to understand what is being told. There is more possibility of misunderstanding and missing the bus. There is a possibility of really not understand. If I don't understand, it's okay. But if I wrongly understand the Upanishads, my whole effort is going to go waste. So he says this particular knowledge, getting this Atmajnanam, understanding of this subtle knowledge is like walking on a razor's edge. Shurasya dhara nishita. Nishita means what? Dhara nishita. Very, very sharp edged sword. If I have to walk on a sharp edged sword, like rope walking, when we have a rope walking, when we see people walking on the rope, it must be so difficult to lose balance, to keep balance, all the time losing balance. Therefore, here he says, getting this knowledge, even with the help of the Guru, is not so easy. And therefore, he says, Kshurasya dhara nishita duratyaya. This knowledge is duratyaya. Duratyaya means not very easy to understand. And this entire process of Jnana Yoga is Kshurasya dhara nishita. It is like a sharp razor's edge on which one has to walk. Durgam pataha tat kavayo vadanti. This particular path is a difficult path. We need help. Without the help of the Shastra, without surrendering to the Shastra, without surrendering to the Guru, it is not possible to get this knowledge. Therefore, hey Jiva, wake up to your ignorance. Get out of that slumber of avidya. Realize that you are missing something, an opportunity which comes only to human beings, and try to prepare yourself for this knowledge. Approach a guru, a sampradaya with guru, and get whatever knowledge has to be got, which is the only way. Jnanattuyeva kaivalyam. Jnanam or Atmajnanam is the only way one can really get free from this samsara. And then in the next verse, Bhagwan Yamadharma Raja wants to now say why this knowledge is so difficult. This knowledge is difficult for whom? It is difficult for people who are not prepared, who have not done enough of Karma Yoga and Chitta Shuddhi, those who have not done enough of Upasana Yoga and Chitta Naishchalyam, and those who have not taken the help of a Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru. For such people, it is difficult. That means what? For an unprepared intellect, it is going to be difficult. But for a prepared intellect, it is not going to be difficult with the help of surrender to the Shastra and the Guru. And he says that this Atmajnanam talks about whom? It talks about what? It talks about myself, the very subject. What is the need for Shastra to talk about myself? Don't I know about myself? I know I am, but I don't know what that I am is. All the time I'm confusing myself for either the body, the mind, sense complexes. I think I'm a limited jiva with a limited body, mind, sense complex. That is the present idea about myself. And ultimately, what is the Upanishad telling me? That you are not this limited body, mind, sense complex, but you are this unlimited Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta, Atma Swarupa. You are that Atma, that Brahman. That is your real Swarupam. And why is it so difficult to understand this? Because here we are not dealing with an object. See, what is our normal tendency? The normal tendency of our mind is to objectify everything. When we say we have to know something, we try to objectify whatever is there and only understand that something needs to be understood as an object. It is something which should be the object of my sense organs. It should be an object which is available to my mind. But unfortunately, this knowledge is not about any object in the world. This knowledge is about the very subject consciousness. This knowledge is about me. And unfortunately, Atma or I is not an object of perception. It is the very subject consciousness. This is the reason why knowing about the Atma is so difficult. If I am objectifying something, if I can see something, if I can touch something, if I can hear something as an object of my perception, knowledge becomes easier because that's what I'm used to. I'm used to that. I'm used to knowing things which are nothing but objects. But here, unfortunately, that about which I have to know is not an object of my perception. It's not an object in the world like any other object. Then what is it? It is the very me. It is the very subject consciousness. And I have to know about myself. How do I know about myself? I cannot look for myself anywhere else. If I stand in front of the mirror, I only get a reflection. I can see my original face in the mirror as a reflection, but my original face, I cannot see myself. I have to know that this is the original and that is the reflection. And therefore, this becomes a very difficult thing for me to understand as Shastra is talking about myself. The Shastra is not talking about me as an object. That is what is going to be talked about in the 15th verse of this Valli. So let us read the 15th verse. Let's see what he says. अशब्दम् अस्पर्शम् अरूपम् अव्ययम् तथारसं नित्यमगन्धवच्च यत् अनाद्यनन्तं महतः परः परं ध्रुवं निचायतन् मृत्युमुखात् प्रमुच्यते. So what he says is, what is that Atma that I'm wanting to know? This Atma is not an object. It is not something which is solidly there in front of me so that I can see it clearly or pursue it or perceive it clearly. It is not so. Then what is it? In this verse, Damadharma Raja talks about this Atma as the very subject. I'm sorry, just a minute. Yamadharma Raja here talks about me, the Atma, as the very subject consciousness. So, what does Yamadharma Raja say here? He says, this Atma, which is not an object of perception because it is what? Ashabdam. It is something which is not an object of my Shrotrendriyas. I cannot hear it. I can hear or listen about it, but I cannot hear it because it's not an object of my ears. It does not have any sound in it. Therefore, it is ashabdam. Asparsham. Atma is something which I cannot hold on, grasp, or feel. Asparsham. Arupam. Atma is something that I cannot see as something which is standing in front of me. In Atmajnanam, Atma does not come and stand in front of me. Atma doesn't tell me, look, I'm standing here, this is what I am, this is what you're looking for. It doesn't say that. Because Atma is so subtle, Atma is nirvikari, Atma does not have any kind of attributes to it, and therefore, Atma, the consciousness, is not having any of the properties of an object. An object can be made out or an object can be understood or perceived by any of the five sense organs. But here it is said that it is ashabdam. That means what? It is not something which I can listen to. It is not something which I can listen because there is no sound in it. Asparsham. Atma is not something which I can touch and then find out what it is. Arupam. Atma is formless. It does not have any form. It is absolutely formless. Then we'll go to the next line before we take Avyayam. Tatha arasam. Arasam means it is not an object of taste. I cannot taste the Atma. I can, hear the body, the sounds in the body. I can feel the body, touch the body. I can see the body. I can smell the body. I can taste the body. But it is not possible to do that with Atma. Therefore, Ashabdam, it is something which does not have any sound in it, so it is not an object of perception of my ears. Asparsham, I cannot feel it. It's not an object of my sense organ called as the skin. Arupam, it is formless. It has no name and form. Nama Rupa Vivarjitam. We have seen that in Viveka Chudamani. Nama Rupa Vivarjitam. That is something which does not have a name and form. Tatha Arasam. It is something which cannot be tasted. And Agandhavach. It's something which does not have any kind of a smell. What does it mean? It means Atma is not available to any of the five sense organs. It's not available for any of the five sense organs of perception. Then what is it? Avyayam. We'll go back to the first line, last word. Avyayam. That which does not waste away, that which does not degenerate, that which is all the time there, imperishable. This consciousness, since it's not an object in the world, it's not an object of the world, and therefore it is imperishable, avyayam, nityam, it is eternal. It is imperishable and it is eternal. Na jayate, na mriyate va kadachit. We saw that it is neither born, nor does it die, nor does it undergo any of the vikaras that all the other parts or other things like the body mind sense complex go through. Therefore it is nityam. It is nityam and it is avyayam. So here he says asparsh ashabdam asparsham arupam avyayam tatha arasam nityam agandhavachayat. That which is nityam, eternal, that which is avyayam, that which does not undergo any kind of a perishing. It's not of a perishing nature. It is imperishable. It is something which is not available to any of the five sense organs of perception. Anadi Anantam. It is birthless and it is deathless. It is eternal. It is infinite. Anadi Anantam Mahataha. Mahataha. That is infinite. There's nothing bigger than that, nothing more than that. It is Ano Aniyam Mahato Mahiyan. We saw in Kathopanishad only. That which is the consciousness behind the smallest of the things, that which is the consciousness behind the biggest of the things. Therefore, it is Anadi, beginningless, birthless, Anantam. It is eternal, infinite, Mahataha, that which is the highest order of reality, that which is the highest truth, Param, that is the highest, most exalted. Nothing is there beyond that. In Kathopanishad only we saw Purusha na param kinchit sa kashta sa paragatihi. Sa kashta, that is the ultimate. There is nothing beyond that. There is nothing which you can go beyond. Therefore, it is param. And it is what? It is param, it is dhruvam. It is dhruvam means what? It is something which is achalam, which does not move, which does not go through any vikaras. Nichaya, understanding this to be what? My nature. Nichaya means understanding. Understanding that I am this consciousness. I am this Atma. I am of this nature. I am that Ashabdam, Asparsham, Arupam, Agandham, Arasam, Nityam, Avyayam, Anadi Anantam, Param, Dhruvam, Atma, Ahamasmi. This is what is called as Nichaya. Having understood what I am Nichaya, Tan Mrityu Mukhat Pramuchate. When I understand this, I am this consciousness and I am not the body mind sense complex. And this consciousness is what is within this body, within all other bodies. It is this consciousness which is the adhishtanam of the entire universe. When I have understood this, Nichaya, when I have clearly understood this, Mrityu Mukhat Pramuchyate. That means what? I get out of the jaws of death. What is the meaning of jaws of death? That means I don't keep coming back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. I don't come back into the cycles of birth and death. This is what is called as the Tan Mrityu Mukhat Pramuchyate. That means I am completely free from the cycles of birth and death. This is actually the reason why it is so difficult to know this Atma. Because this Atma, this Upanishad is talking about me, the subject consciousness. The Upanishad is not talking about some other object outside. It is talking about me. It is talking about this consciousness. It is talking about me, the very subject. It is talking about this subject consciousness. Therefore, I have to prapya varan nibodhata, which was what was told earlier in the 14th verse. So once I know this, what? This is the phalam which has been given. Mrityu mukhat pramuchyate. This knowledge, going through this Jnana Yoga, after having been an adhikari, sadhana chatushtaya sampanna adhikari, and after having prepared my mind and intellect with karma yoga, and then I approach a guru, and with this guru, with taking making take taking the help, surrendering to this guru and shastra, I understand that I am this atma which is being talked about. It is not something which is somewhere there which I have to attain, which I have to achieve. This is what I am. This is what I was never anything else. I was never a body mind sense complex. I was never a jiva. It is my anadi avidya. It is my ignorance which made me look at myself as the body mind sense complex, make me consider myself as a limited jiva. Actually speaking, I am this limitless consciousness. I am this avyaya nitya shuddha buddha atma. And once I have understood this, then the phalam of this knowledge is, what is the phalam of this knowledge? It is total freedom from birth and death. That means what? That I am completely free, in the sense I abide in my Atma Swarupa. I don't come back again and again into the cycles of birth and death. Now, the Mahima of this knowledge is being talked about in the last two verses, and the third Valli of the first chapter ends in the next two verses. So, what does he say in the 16th verse, in the next verse? नाचिकेतम् उपाख्यानं मृत्युप्रोक्तं सनातनम् उक्त्वा श्रुत्वा च मेधावी ब्रह्मलोके महीयते. This is again the phalam, what has been told. This knowledge, what does it do for me? How does it free me from this samsara? This is what is going to be told here. Nachiketam upakhyanam. This entire first chapter and three vallis, which talked about Nachiketa's story and what Nachiketa learned from Yamadharmaraja. This entire thing about his going to the Mrityu Loka, meeting Yamadharmaraja, getting the three varas, and asking for this ultimate knowledge which frees one from samsara. This entire thing, Nachiketam Upakhyanam. This is the thing which is, that which has been told through Nachiketa by Mrityu Proktam Sanatanam. This knowledge through the mouth, through taking Nachiketa as an instrument, Mrityu Proktam. Mrityu gave this knowledge. Mrityu has this knowledge. Mrityu means Mrityu Devata, Yamadharmaraja has this knowledge. But then there should be somebody to ask for this knowledge. And Nachiketa has asked for this knowledge. And taking Nachiketa as an instrument through which Yamadharmaraja has given this knowledge in the form of Kathopanishad to all of us. Mrityu Proktam Sanatanam. This knowledge is something which is forever, Sanatanam. This knowledge is not something which is a work of any human intellect. It is not a fiction knowledge. It is the ultimate knowledge. It is the knowledge that makes all the difference between a samsari and a mukta purusha. This is the knowledge which makes all the difference between a person coming back again and again and again into the life cycles and the one who has completely jumped out of the cycles of birth and death. And therefore, Mrityu Proktam Sanatanam. This knowledge is the knowledge which is forever, Sanatanam. That has been there, this knowledge has been there from time immemorial. The most sacred knowledge, Sanatanam. Uktva Shrutva Cha Medhavi. Uktva, having spoken about it and listening to it, Shrutva, Medhavi. Medhavi means a mumukshu, a prepared intellect, a person who has the Grahana Shakti and the Dharana Shakti to go through this knowledge, have this knowledge, get oneself free, understand this knowledge, abide in the Atma Swarupa, and get free from this chakra of samsara, coming and going again. This Medhavi, Brahma Loke Mahiyate. That means what? Such a person attains the final goal of Brahma Loka. What is the meaning of Brahma Loka here? That means we have seen that an upasaka attains the highest. A upasaka, Nachiketagni, Yamadharmaraja said that a person who does the ritual of Nachiketagni along with Virat Upasana, this Karma Upasana Samuchaya or combination done by an Upasaka, he ultimately goes to Brahmaloka, the highest loka, in which he has an opportunity for Krama Mukti. But a person who understands this knowledge here and now, after having prepared one's intellect, then such a person ultimately gets this moksha itself, nothing short of moksha. So, both the results are being told here. Those who do the Nachiket Agni Upasana along with Virat Upasana will have Kramamukti, Brahmaloka Prapti, and Kramamukti. And those who have got this knowledge that Yamadharmaraja has told Nachiketa, these people have Sadhyo Mukti and they are totally freed from this bondage of coming back again and again. So, Mrityu Proktam Sanatanam, this never wasting, this ever fresh, the highest knowledge, the knowledge which frees one from the bondage of samsara. Mrityu Proktam, by Mrityu Devata, it was talked about. Taking Nachiketa as a reason to give this knowledge to the world, such a person will either be a person fit for Kramamukti or for Sadyomukti, depending upon which aspect of this Nachiketa Upakhyanam you are going to concentrate. If a person is happy with Nachiketa Agni ritual and Virat Upasana, he will ultimately get the Brahmaloka Prapti. Or if a person who's prepared well for this knowledge and gets this knowledge, abides in his Atma Swarupa, understands oneself to be that ashabdam, asparsham, arupam, agandham, atma, such a person directly has reached the goal, what is called as moksha, and brahmaloke mahiyate. He is free forever. Then the next verse, which is the concluding verse of this first chapter, talks about another aspect of punya that is going to be gathered by this person. He says, Ya imam paramam guhyam shravayed brahma samsadi prayatah shraddha kale va tadanantyaya kalpate tadanantyaya kalpata iti. Whenever a section or a chapter ends, the Upanishad always repeats the last word. That's why we have here Tad Anantyaya Kalpate, Tad Anantyaya Kalpate. Twice it is explained, twice it is revealed, twice it is reiterated. It is only to indicate that this particular chapter and this valley are over. So, what is it that the Upanishad is trying to say here? Now, this is not Yamadharma Raja who's trying saying that. Now we can say that the last two verses are the verses talked about by the Upanishad. We can say now that the dialogue between Nachiketa and Yama for the time being is over and the Upanishad has come back and the last two verses, the 16th verse and the 17th verse, are the verses which are given by the Upanishad. And the Upanishad in the last verse said that this is the most sacred knowledge which was got by Nachiketa, and anybody else who gets this knowledge also gets the same phalam that Nachiketa got in the form of moksha. And now in the 17th verse, another aspect of phalam is given. What is it? So he says here, Ya imam paramam guhyam. This knowledge, which is the most exalted knowledge, paramam, guhyam, the secret knowledge of the Upanishad, Shravayet Brahma Samsadi, the one who chants this Upanishad, the one who talks about this and chants this Upanishad, Brahma Samsadi, in the assembly of learned people. A person who chants this entire universe. That's why it is said, even chanting of the Upanishads, even chanting of the Bhashya has got a lot of punya. You know, there are many people who chant at least one Upanishad every day. A small Upanishad, it's okay. It could be Kaivalya Upanishad, it could be Kathopanishad, it could be even one chapter of Kathopanishad. Every day, if one chants the Upanishad, it is supposed to have a punya. A person gets that particular punya of having chanted the Upanishad. So here it is said, a person Shravayet Brahma Samsadi, a person who chants this Upanishad, the mantras of this Upanishad in Brahma Samsadi, in the assembly of sacred or knowledgeable people, in the assembly of Brahmanas. Here, Brahma Samsadi means in the assembly of Brahmanas. Brahmanas here means people who are Vedikas, people who are, who are aware of these things, who are, you know, intelligent people, those who have a value for this particular knowledge. In front of such people, Brahmasam, in the assembly of wise people, a person who chants, or Prayataha Shraddha Kaleva. You might have observed this, that in the Shraddha Kala also, Kathopanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad are chanted actually in Shraddha Kala also. So he says, anybody, Prayataha, after purifying oneself, after having a bath and purifying oneself, one's body, a person who chants this at the time of Shraddha, Shraddha Kaleva, the one who chants this Upanishad at the time of Shraddha, such a person, Tad Anantyaya Kalpate, such a person gets ready for this knowledge. Anantyaya Kalpate means what? Such a person is preparing himself for moksha. This chanting of the Upanishad itself gives so much of a punya that it makes a person ready for this knowledge. Anantyaya kalpate, tad anantyaya kalpata iti. So, mere chanting of the Upanishad every day in the assembly of learned people at the time of Shraddha, at the Grahana time, Shraddha time, when the Upanishad is chanted, then it is going to give the punya of being ready for this knowledge. With this, the first chapter, first adhyaya, with its three vallis are over. Then the second adhyaya starts. Now, what is the need for the second adhyaya? When the first adhyaya itself has given the completeness in the complete state, there is a completeness in the first adhyaya itself. It talks about the mumukshu. It talks about the preparation of the mumukshu. It talks about the vairagya that is necessary. Viveka, vairagya, samadhi, shatka, sampatti, adhikaritvam of the mumukshu it talks about. It talks about the mumukshu asking for this knowledge. It talks about the guru giving this knowledge. It talks about even the upasana and the karma called as nachiketa. So in every aspect, the first chapter is complete in itself. But then what is the need for the second chapter to come? As we have seen in the first chapter, the Brahma Vidya is not given in so much of detail. There is more of this story. The entire first Valli and the first 18 verses of the second Valli are talking about Nachiketa's appearance in Yamaloka and his dialogue with Yama in the form of the preparatory steps. So actually Brahma Jnanam is seen in very few verses. In the very few verses in the third Valli, we see Brahmajnanam. We don't see that more and more in detail. Therefore, Yamadharmaraja feels that he has not given enough, he has not taught enough, and therefore, in the second chapter, which again contains three Vallis, Yamadharmaraja wants to make this particular Brahmajnanam much more revealing. He wants to reveal this Brahmajnanam more in greater detail, teach this Brahmajnanam in greater detail, he wants to teach. And that is the need for the second chapter. Also, Bhagwan Shankaracharya says that this very subject of Atmajnanam being so subtle, it needs to be repeated. It needs to be repeated in a different way, in a different form, in different words. It has to be explained again and again. And therefore, Yamadharmaraja, being a true teacher, though Nachiketa is a very, very sharp and an adhikari shishya, a shishya who is an adhikari, even then, probably Yamadharmaraja would have thought that I have to give in some more, I have to give some more. The same knowledge that I gave, I have to give in different words, in different verses, from different viewpoints, from different angles, because of the very subtlety of this knowledge itself. This knowledge is so subtle, and therefore it has to be repeated again and again in different forms. So that could be one of the reasons why Yamadharmaraja starts the same teaching again in the second chapter, but in a little different way. So, what does let us go to the second chapter, first verse. So, let us see what he says here. पराञ्चिखानि व्यतृणत् स्वयंभूः तस्मात् पराङ् पश्यति नान्तरात्मन् कश्चिद्धीरः प्रत्यगात्मानमैक्षत् आवृत्तचक्षुः अमृतत्वमिच्छन्. So what is the meaning of this? Here Yamadharma Raja wants to say, why is it that most of the people are not interested in this knowledge? What is the reason for this? As I told you, even Bhagwan Krishna told in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Tesham siddhanam api, among those also who try, very few try for this knowledge. Kaschid yatati, kaschid, one rare one tries to get this knowledge. Out of these rare ones also, very, very rare one or two really succeed in getting this knowledge. So why is it that only people like Nachiketa, very few people are interested in knowledge, this knowledge? Why is it that most of the people are not interested in this knowledge? This is what the Upanishad is trying to say here. It says, the Upanishad says, Yamadharma Raja says, the natural tendency of all of us is to look outside. Because our sense organs are all posited outside. The jiva has to transact with the world outside. Therefore, all our karmendriyas and jnanendriyas are as though posited outside, facing the world outside. The karmendriyas are facing the world outside, the jnanendriyas are facing the world outside. The mind and the intellect are always trying to know what is outside in the outside world. Therefore, what here Yamadharma Raja says, the Upanishad says, is that it is a very natural tendency for every human being to be outward facing, or bahirmukhatvam is a very natural character of all the jivas, because all the sense organs and the mind are facing the world outside. So there is nothing wrong here. It is as though God or Ishvara has tortured the sense organs by keeping them facing outside. We are not seeing anything which is happening inside. God save us. Imagine if all our sense organs could see what was happening inside us, we wouldn't be able to really live, and we wouldn't be able to really fight for life like this. Probably we would have lost interest in everything. Here the Upanishad says, Ishvara has created the sense organs and the mind and the intellect in such a way that these are all the time having bahirmukhatvam. They're always facing outside. And this is the natural tendency. Why is this happening? Because the jiva has to work out its prarabdha. The jiva has to work out its prarabdha with the other jivas. The jivas have to transact with the world outside. And therefore, it is very necessary for the sense organs and the mind and the intellect to be facing outside. But it is to our disadvantage because we think that the world is real, the body mind sense complex is real. Bahir Mukhatvam is the only thing that we know about. It is as though Ishvara has created a jiva, tortured the jiva, tortured the sense organs by keeping them facing outside. From this natural flow of the sense organs and the mind and intellect towards the universe or towards the world outside, a very rare discriminating person desiring immortality, desiring to get out of this cycle of birth and death, would like to become antarmukhi and see who I am. This is what he says in this verse. He says, Paranchi Khani. What is the meaning of Khani? Khani means the sense organs. All these eyes, ears, nose, everything, all our indriyas are facing outside. Paranchi. Paranchi means outside. Khani. The sense organs are facing outside. Vyatranat Swayambhuhu. Swayambhuhu means Ishvara. Vyatranat Swayambhuhu means what? Swayambhuhu or Ishvara is as though torturing the jiva and the sense organs by making the jiva face outwards. Vyatranat Swayambhuhu. And tasmat, therefore, parang pashyati. I'm all the time having bahirmukhatvam. All my activities are outside. Every time I'm looking at the world outside, Paranchi Khani Vyatranat Swayambhuhu, as if Ishvara didn't want me to know myself, as if Ishvara wants to torture me. He has made me in such a way, He has created my body mind sense complex in such a way that I am always facing the world outside. Vyatranat Swayambhuhu Tasmat Parang Pashyati Na Antaratman. Tasmat, therefore, the jiva is always looking outside. Parang Pashyati Na Antaratman. There is no Antarmukhatvam. And unless I have the antarmukhatvam, unless I want to know about myself, which is here, what I'm looking for, that peace, security, and happiness which I'm looking for, I do not understand that it is not in the world outside. I feel it is something which is in the world outside, and my sense organs are also placed outside all the time. My body mind sense complex, mind and intellect are facing outwards without realizing that what I am looking for is me, the Atmaswarupam. What I want to know to get out of this samsara is me, the Atma, which is not the body mind sense complex, and I have to turn inwards. Antarmukhatvam has to be there. I have to turn inside, inwards. Unless I have the antarmukhatvam, the more and more bahirmukhatvam I have, the more and more difficult it is for me to understand my true nature. So he says, Tasmat, therefore, parang pashyati na antaratman. The jiva is all the time facing outside because it is the natural tendency, it is the natural flow of the jiva to be a bahirmukha. Bahirmukhatvam is the natural trend. But then, being Bahirmukhatvam, I'm not going to find that Atma in the world outside, but it is not because it is not an object of my perception. Where is that Atma to be found, to be understood? Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. That consciousness which is in me, this Hridaya Guha, that is what I have to know. That is what I have to know. I have to turn my attention inwards. I have to become antar, I have to have the antarmukhatvam. Therefore, he says, Kaschid Dhiraha. Kaschid Dhiraha, a very rare one. Kaschid Dhiraha, a person who is a very, very rare person. Pratyagatmanam aikshat. Pratyagatmanam, that innermost consciousness, he wants to see. He wants to fathom that particular Atma Chaitanya, which is Chaitanya Rupena, which is available here. And it is a very rare one who is no longer interested in the outside world, like Nachiketa, and who asks for this knowledge and willing to turn his attention inwards. It doesn't mean that we can change our sense organs inwards. Ishvara is not going to make them come inwards. What is the meaning of, Avrita Chakshuhu? It means that my attention is turned inwards. My interest is turned inwards. My attention and interest are no longer Bahirmukha. My attention and interest are now Antarmukha. I want to know that Atma, that Pratyagatma, that which is the innermost, that which is the nearest to me, I want to know. Kaschid Dhiraha Pratyagatmanam Aikshata Avritta Chakshuhu. He turns his attention inwards. You cannot turn your eyes inwards. We cannot have any kind of a surgery to turn the eyes inwards. Avritta Chakshuhu means he turns his attention. This Dhiraha, this Viveki, this Mumukshu, this Vairagi, the one who has the Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhi, Shatka, Sampatti, Mumukshutvam, this Adhikari, he wants to become Antarmukha. He wants to see that Atma, which is the Pratyagatma, that Atma, which is the innermost, knowing that which one is free from samsara. So Pratyagatmanam Aikshata Avratta Chakshuhu Amritatvam Icchan. And what is the purpose? Amritatvam Icchan Avratta Chakshuhu. Amritatvam Icchan. He has the Ichha of immortality, means mumukshutvam. Out of mumukshutvam, he understands that what I am looking for, this peace, security, and happiness, and this freedom forever from samsara is not what I am going to get from the world outside. This is something which I have to find here, yo veda nihitam guhaya. And this consciousness is something which is there, which I have to know with the help of Shastra and Guru. And such a mumukshu, amritatvam icchan avritta chakshuhu. He turns his attention inwards, towards the Pratyagatma, to know what it is. The same thing is talked about in the next verse also. The difference between people who are all the time looking outside for peace, security, and happiness, and those who are looking, those who are trying to see, those who are trying to change their perspective and try to see within rather than see outside. The second verse says, Parancha kaman anuyati balaha te mrityor yanti vitatasya pasham atha dhira amritatvam viditva dhruvam adhruveshu iha na prarthayante. This discriminative person understands that the dhruvam, what he is looking for, is not there in the adhruveshu, in this changing, ever changing world and ever changing prapancha. This is not there. So a person who's a discriminative person understands that if I go after the world of objects, I'm not going to get this. This dhruvatvam, or this something which is eternal, which is permanent, which is what I want to know and get out of this samsara, is not something which I will find in the world outside. But who are those people who run after the world outside? Parachaha kaman anuyanti balaha. Balaha, immature people, childish people who do not understand that what they are looking for outside is nothing but associated with dukkha. It is something, all the happiness that I get out of the world outside is dukkha mishritatvam, atruptikaratvam, bandhakatvam. It is never going to give me any permanent sense of happiness. And therefore, those who go after this temporary happiness, Those who go after this temporary feeling of sukha, a little bit of object, Vishayananda, they are the ones which are going after this. So parachaha kaman anuyanti balaha. The balaha or immature people go after the world of objects outside. Those people, mrutyoho yanti vitatasya pasham. They are constantly affected by mrityu's pashas. Pasha means what? They are constantly affected by death. They come back, they are kartas, bhoktas. They come back again and again, again and again, again and again. They fall into the net of Yamadharmaraja. They fall into the net of Mrityu and come back again and again. Atha dhiraha. On the contrary, these discriminative people, these Vivekis, Vairagis, and those who are Mumukshus, what do? Amritatvam viditva, understanding that the world is not going to give me Amritatvam. The world is only going to give me temporary moments of happiness, and those moments of happiness are also interspersed with dukkha. And therefore, ultimately, what gives me happiness is ultimately understanding my nature, understanding I am that ashabda, asparsha, arupa, arasa, agandha, nitya, dhruva, param atma. I am that understanding alone. Therefore, Amritatvam viditva, having understood that Amritatvam cannot be got by the world outside. No dharma, artha, kama, purushartha can give me Amritatvam. It is only the moksha purushartha which can give me Amritatvam. Knowing this, dhruvam adhruveshu iha na prathayante. The mature, discriminate people don't go after the world of objects. They go after what? They try to understand what this Atma is all about. Therefore, he says that though naturally our sense organs have been kept outside as though facing the world outside by Ishvara, actually speaking, there are discriminative people who are willing to look inwards, to change their vision from going after the world outside to understanding what I am. Those who are in search of that Atma Tattvam, they actually turn, Antarmukhatvam they get, and they no longer run after the world of objects outside, knowing well that the permanent security, peace, and happiness is not in the world outside, but it is there when I abide in the Atma Swarupa. Atma is the eternal, Anantam, Purnatva Swarupa, Ananda Swarupa Atma. Only that can give me Amritatvam or Moksha. Knowing this, a discriminating person, a Dhira, does not go after the world of objects outside. I think with this, we will stop today, and in the next session, we'll go to the next verses. We have started the first valli of the second chapter, and we'll continue that in the next session. Om Nandantu Sadhaka Sarve Vinashyantu Vidushakaha Avastha Shambhavi Mestu Prasannostu Guru Sada Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukhamapnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. ॐ नमो भगवते वैवस्वताय मृत्यवे ब्रह्मविद्याचार्याय नचिकेतसे च